If you have got a dream in your heart, an idea you want to put out into the world, or you just want to seize every opportunity that comes your way, this is the episode for you. Many years ago, when I was touring around the world with the Blender Girl cookbooks and I was working with KitchenAid and other brands, I met so many incredible people. But my two favorite people were this dynamic brother and sister team, Alex and Kate from Dreamfarm. Fellow Aussies, we fell in love instantly, had all this stuff in common, and boy, did I fall in love with their incredible kitchen gadgets, which are now celebrated the world over. But more importantly, they're just incredible humans who are doing such good things in the world. And when my dad got cancer, their dad got cancer at the same time. And unfortunately, he passed away. And during the worst time in their lives, they still reached out to me all the time to ask how my dad was. So I don't know about you, but I like to spend my money on things that are incredible and make my life easier, but are also produced by really extraordinary good people. And they fit the bill. So I invited them on the podcast. Kate said, you don't want me. I'm part of the furniture. She is not, but I got Alex. So boy, am I excited for you to hear what he has to say. So let's get the skinny from Alex Gransbury. Welcome, Alex. I am so excited that you're joining me. Oh, man, do I love Dreamfarm. So for those of you that might have been living under a rock for the last few years, Dreamfarm is an amazing design firm based out of Brisbane, Australia. It was founded by Alex in 2003, and they make incredible innovative kitchen tools that just make your life easier. I'm kind of obsessed with them, right? So Alex started it on his own to try and kind of fix a problem of like his frustration of disposing his coffee grinds. And it quickly sort of grew into this amazing Aussie empire that we're all so proud of. They were on Time Magazine's list of best inventions for 2023 and also Oprah's favorite things. They are having their moment in the sun. I laughed so hard when I got Alex's bio and he said, I kind of loved MacGyver and I'm not sporting, his 1980s mullet, but I match him in my innovation and problem solving skills. And I can second that. So thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Tess. Thanks very much for having us. We've known each other for a long time, so it's great to be doing this. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's just been so thrilling to watch your company grow and just become like a household name. I mean, I travel a lot and every store I go into has this huge Dream Farm supply store and everyone's got a tale of how Dream Farm's making their life better, right? And that's what we're all about. And I know that's one of your core values as a company is, making people's lives better. So I want to know about the it has to be me moment where you just went, I'm starting a company and I'm going to solve problems.
Yeah, I guess for me, it was back in accounting. I was studying accounting at university. This is just 21 years ago now. So back in 2002, I was studying finance and accounting. I finished up university, gone traveling for a year, and then decided that I wanted to go and learn about money and economics and just sort of doing the thing that you do when you finish school. Like you have to go to university or your life is over, right? So that's what you get told. It's definitely what we got told in our all boys grammar school. So
I got told in my all girls grammar school.
So went to university, studied economics. It was so theoretical, it made no sense. So I moved over to commerce, finance and accounting. I got kind of halfway through my second year and I thought, what am I doing with my life? Like everyone was getting really excited about going and getting a job placement at Ernst & Young or PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just not going to kiss ass all these years to one day handle the Jones account. You get one shot at life. I'm going to try and be the Jones account. And I always wanted to be an inventor. So that's what I did.
I love that so much. Okay, that's the key takeaway, isn't it? You don't want to service the Jones account. You want to be the Jones account, right? So were you always into inventions and problem solving as a kid? Like, did you play with Lego? Did you fix things? How did that all start for you? This getting your brain around finding solutions? Because my brain doesn't work like that.
Look, I think like most kids, I had a ton of Lego. They used to make all sorts of crazy things. Yeah, look, I probably had more than the average kid and used to take things apart, but a lot of kids do. It's, yeah, I don't know. Growing up, we were in Japan at one stage. We moved every few years. My parents were in foreign affairs. So actually, Dad turns out to be a spy. He's no longer with us, so I can say that. I only found out when I was 21. So my whole life growing up, it was a great mystery why we moved. So to divert. I mean, we were born in London because they were living in Moscow at the end of the 70s, early 80s, end of Cold War, it turns out. It makes sense now. And we
Makes
moved every
perfect
3 years.
sense.
Yeah. And then so we moved every 3 years. And I guess when I was sort of 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, and that's when I fell in love with MacGyver. It was one of the only shows on Japanese TV in English. And we had little gerbils at the time, like these little, they were Mongolian desert mice. And I used to make a train to run around from each bedroom to each bedroom. And we used to, oh, I get in trouble with the RSPCA for saying this now, but we used to make, I used to make parachutes and all sorts of things and throw them out of the building, of our apartment building, and they all survived. It's just little things like that, just, I loved, do you remember that? There was a kid, what was his name, in the Goonies? He was the little invention kid.
Yeah.
Wasn't Shorty,
That
that was,
character's name.
yeah,
I loved that film.
I think he was the same guy who was Shorty in the Indiana Jones movies, so I get confused. But he had
Ooh.
he had a little invention like MacGyver that could escape anything, and it was kind of this idea that if you had a problem, like I was that guy who was trying to design a way of closing my bedroom door or turning off the lights while still being in my bed with a little rope system, that sort of thing. You know what the cool? Actually, you know what? Digress and talk about movies for a second. The coolest scene ever in a movie is the beginning of Back to the Future.
Oh,
When,
please. I love that
yeah,
movie.
yeah, when Marty McFly goes over to Doc's house and he has that invention that automatically feeds Einstein his dog.
Yeah.
Did you say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he walks in and then suddenly the toaster's getting made, the dog food's coming out, it's all happening. Those sorts of things, like I mean, they're now, what are they called now? It's forget the name. But a hugely complicated mechanism for doing something quite simple at the end of the day. But all that sort of stuff really, really inspired me that I'm like, yeah, there's got to be a way of making this easier. I think probably deep down inside, I'm one of the laziest people alive. So I'm always trying to make things easier or better. We say for other people, but mainly for myself because I'm lazy, probably.
Yeah,
At the end of the day.
I think that we often go into professions for something we didn't get for ourselves and we want to do it for ourselves. We solve a problem and then we do it for others. So, but you had a grandpa that was always fixing stuff, right? You've told me
Yeah.
about like his little Geppetto's workshop and all of these tools, and you spent a lot of time in there, right?
Yeah, my grandfather on my father's side, he used to manage a farm outback, South Australia, and like back in that day, and this is what we're known for as Australians. We're an island, so whatever's here, you've got to make it work. You don't
Yeah.
chuck things in the bin and start again. You fix it. And he was one of those guys that could literally fix a tractor or fix a toaster, whatever was in front of him, he could fix. And he had a workshop where, geez, when people come to our workshop here at Dreamfarm, I always say we pride ourselves on being able to make one of anything. And
Yeah.
his workshop was absolutely that. He could have made one of anything. And I used to, when sadly he passed away when I was quite young, but we'd still go back to Adelaide for Christmas with I'd see my father's side of the family. And I'd spend the Christmas holidays going through it and asking, what does that do? What does that do? What does that do? And you really understand when you go into a workshop that everything has a purpose. And this wasn't like you had just a collection of junk. Every single tool had a spot on the shelf, a spot on a wall, and an outline behind, like a silhouette. Like everything had its place, and he had one of absolutely everything, but not two. He didn't need two. He just wanted the best one. So it's like you always look back over life and that the things that your parents or your grandparents ingrained in you. And my old man was definitely that era that buy once, buy right, buy the best one you can afford. So I guess sort of rubbed off on me over time that you want to make stuff that people will hold on to forever.
Yeah.
Um,
Oof. Yeah, that served you well in business for sure. I'm not letting my Flusa or some of this stuff go in my life. Like, I can't live without it. I travel with my mini Sapoon in my purse, let me tell you. Like, I love that thing. What about this idea of thinking outside of the box and kind of often in order to find solutions, we've got to break the rules and we've got to go
mhm.
against what other people think it should be or what, those kind of things. So have you always been a rule breaker? Because I know that you really lean into that part of yourself. Where was that born?
I think that was my life. I was a middle kid. You know, I always like, how about this, right? So when we were in Japan, everywhere we went, it was like, oh, look at John. He's so tall and handsome, blah, blah, blah. And
Who's your
look at Kat.
brother?
This is my older brother, John. Yeah. And then younger sister, Kat. Oh, look at her. She's so cute and tiny and she's so lovely.
Oh,
And I
your
might be sitting there
middle child.
through and through, through and through. Yeah, 100%.
I'm at it too.
What about me? Look at me. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Stop copying me. Stop copying me. 100%. Yeah, I mean, I lead with that a lot of the time now. I am the like epitome of a middle child. And it's so funny. I married a middle child. I have a middle child. We're all left-handed. Yeah, it's
Two.
there you go.
Celebrate the Molly Dukers, man. The left-handed people. Yeah.
Totally.
So
So yeah,
yeah,
I mean, growing up, you want to stand out. You know, you want to be different. You want to be recognized. You want to matter.
yeah.
I think this is a big part of the big part of it for everyone. You want to feel like your life has meaning or has mattered, right? Like there was some end result to my life, and without getting too deep too early, but I mean that's what
Oh,
it's
go
about.
deep. I love it. Let's go deep. Let's go.
Well, look, there's so much junk out there on the planet. You know, there's so much Me Too junk in places like Temu and Alibaba, and there's a lot of junk on Amazon as well. People will just buy shit.
Yeah.
Stuff. And so we want to make, you feel valuable as a human when you make things that are useful that other people find useful. Well, I do anyway.
Yes.
And so
We all do, I think. We want to be useful. We want to help. We want to feel like we matter. Like, yeah.
100%. So I guess for me, naturally, well, did I always break the rules? Like I wasn't a great student, let's be honest. I was a pretty naughty kid. I've always been a naughty kid. It's funny,
It's a boarding school. Of course you were.
well, before we were in Japan, when I was really young, so let's say like 3 to 5, we lived in Manila in the Philippines at the Marcos era of all things.
Yeah.
But I used to have a cowlick before I was bald. I used to have a cowlick right on the front of my head here. And that was a really renowned thing in Filipino culture, that if you had a cowlick at the front of your probably brow, I don't, it's been so long since I've had one, I can't remember what people talk about with their hair, that you were a naughty kid. That was the sign of being a naughty kid.
Interesting. In Filipino culture. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I always knew that, I guess maybe it's the need to stand out or be different. I was the kid. I've always been a smart ass. I've always had plenty to say about everything. And I've never, and then going to boarding school, you figure that out quickly, don't you? These are the rules. You have to check in here and check in there. And as long as you tick those boxes, and that place you could do whatever you wanted. You could you could sign out to a fictitious address. You could sneak back in the morning and still get fed. I think, I guess we just wired that way. Figure out the rules, figure out how to bend them, live life to the max.
And then make your own. Live by your own rules, right? I mean, you've won so many Red Dot Awards. So for those of you listening who don't know, a Red Dot Award is like the Oscars of like industrial and product design and innovation, right? Design awards. And you've won tons of them, and just award after award after award for these incredible things. So going back to this whole, I'm going to make my own rules. I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to, color outside of the lines and figure this out. And I'm going to be the Jones account. I love this, right? So flash forward and you're 22, right? And I'm not going to go work at Ernst & Young. I'm doing my own thing, right? So what was driving that? You want to be the Jones account, but beyond that, was it money? Was it, financial freedom? Was it recognition? Was it fame? Like, what was driving you when you were 22 to kind of go, I'm doing this?
It's a good question. Look, if I'm looking back now, I think probably 2 things. One, I'd just come back from overseas and I had been backpacking. And if
we all do that as Aussies. We take our gap year, backpack around the world. Yep.
Totally. But what you figure out when you're backpacking and, on a shoestring budget is that everything you do, everything you see, where you go, where you stay, the experiences you have, the food you eat, it all comes down to money. it all comes down to how much money. You can do it cheaply. Don't get me wrong. You don't have to have $1 zillion to do things. But for example, if you wanted to
What
get
choices when you got money?
you do.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to Antarctica before you die,
It's expensive.
it's expensive, right?
And with 3 kids.
there's no cheap. Yeah, I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
There's no cheap way of doing that. So if you want to do that, you're gonna have to put some money together. And growing up, we had 2 sets of grandparents from everyone does, but from 2 different walks of life. One was very frugal and had lived modestly, and the other one had done very well for themselves in terms of, well, he was the dentist in Ballarat and ran the practice there. And I remember we were the kids that had like well, you get $20 from one grandparent, $50 from the other sort of grandparent.
It's a nice situation. Yeah.
I'll tell you which envelope got opened first at Christmas for sure. But both lovely people. Anyway, I remember talking to Pa and saying to him, he was saying to me, mate, I was asking him, you've done really well for yourself. And he was saying, I have. But you know what if I had my time again, what I would change is that I only make money when I go and pull teeth. I have to go to work or I don't earn an income. And then people talk about a passive income now, but I think coupled together with always wanting to be an inventor, with, oh my God, if I want to do some cool stuff in this world, I'm going to need some money. And then the idea of creating something that you can keep making money from. So it's not a service. It's not you're selling yours. How can you do something and then it have a scalable return? And that's kind of what I was like, you know what? You get one shot at life. What am I doing? What am I doing with being an accountant? I'm going to end up with a gun in my mouth and pool of blood on the floor. This is a terrible idea. So I started Dreamfarm. And, I remember having this list of potential company names on the back of my wall, and I'd circle them all and I'd figure out what it was going to be. And, you're 22, you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I look back now and I think, oh, I'm so glad I started it then when I didn't have a mortgage and I didn't have kids and a wife and everything else. But you know what? If that's what you want to do, how about this for a story? So one of my great mates, Rod, his mum had this idea for a product, and this product was born out of everything in necessity. And her name was Christine. And so Chris had this product that one day she cracked the shits with her kids watching TV. So she's gone and chopped off the power cord. And, and so she created this cover for a power cord you could put a lock on, right? And that was her dream. She wanted to then take it as a product. And, that's that same thing. It's like, I came up with a great idea. If I can put it out into the world, I'll feel useful. And yay, no one else had done that before. And you feel like you've added to the world and you matter. And so she went to go and get it off the ground. Maybe at the time didn't have the support of her family around her and found that frustrating or whatever. But I've just never wanted to be one of those guys that died wondering, what if,
Yeah.
So I just give it a go.
Yes. I would rather regret what I did do as opposed to what I didn't do. I don't want to live with coulda, woulda, shoulda, what if. Oh, God, that's torture. No way. I'd rather clean up the mess later because I went, okay, well, here's the thing, and I say this all the time, my favorite quote is, the Nelson Mandela one, I never lose. I either win or I learn. So even when something all goes to crap and you're like, yeah, you learn and you go, okay, even if it's what not to do again, So talk about this support from your family. I want to hear more about that. So you're 22, you've got a dream. We don't know it's a dream farm yet. But did you get support from your dad or from your mum or your family, like financial, a little bit of help? Were they supportive of you starting your own business? What was that like?
Oh, absolutely. I got more help than you could possibly imagine. And from everyone around me, I had everyone. I had a friend who was studying graphic design at university, Sally, who designed Dreamfarm's logo. And my mum used to put crime signs together with me. That was our first product. Actually, this guy, that's the original.
Oh, that's the prototype. This
is the not even remotely exciting. It turned into this, but we used to put these together every night of the week for years. And then
So you
Like,
said sheltered workshop with your friends and family, putting together the Grindenstein.
well, it was my mum, myself, and my girlfriend at the time, who was hugely supportive as well. My dad did the accounts for years and years and years. In fact, he only stopped doing the accounts when he got brain cancer, and we were looking like
Oh,
everybody I know was in. Brother John used to paint walls here for a while. My sister Kate still works in business. My mum does the cleaning at a lot.
still.
She gets paid, but I mean, she used to
Still does
walk.
the cleaning. Oh gosh, I
Still
love
does the cleaning.
Gary so much. I mean, I
You-
loved you guys before, but now I'm in love like I never thought I could be in love. So it really, I mean, look, we all do everything on the shoulders of giants, don't we? Right? Like we
Yep.
can't do it alone. Did your parents give you some money to help you start it? How did that all happen?
Yeah, so 22, no money whatsoever, and I had enough money to put together the first 100 grind and starts. And the reason I started with this product when I decided I'm going to go out and this is going to be my first product, and that ended up just by absolute chance being a kitchen tool, sold at kitchenware stores, and then now we're the kitchenware company.
So,
Um,
Alex, go back and for everyone that's just listening and not watching video, can you tell everyone what a Grindenstein is for everybody that doesn't know what it is? The first product you
Sure.
launched, Dreamfarm. Like, how did that come about?
Okay, it is the most unexciting thing you can imagine.
But useful if you're a coffee lover.
No one had done it at that time. All it is a miniaturized version of the tube that they have in cafes. It's a tube with a bolt going through the middle at the top, and you use it, you get what they call the group handle or portafilter. It's basically the handle that holds the basket that the coffee sits in an espresso machine.
Yep.
And you turn it upside down and you go dunk dunk on the bar, and then the grinds fall out and it collects in the bottom of this cylinder.
Yep.
And they had big versions of those in cafes back in 2002. Before I started Dreamfarm, probably in 2003. Um, they only had them for cafes. No one had made a version for home espresso machines.
Yeah.
And home espresso machines had just made they just started to come under $1,000. They were now sort of $600. I think Sunbeam had a $600 machine, and they were starting to get into this space where you could have one domestically. And so I was like, well, I'll just make the small version for domestic machines, and that's what I did.
So you had a coffee machine and you were just frustrated and went, this is ridiculous. How do I get rid of the coffee grinds out of this thing and make another thing of coffee?
Exactly. You're either washing it down the sink, tapping it on the inside of the bin, which is gross, especially if you're going to put more coffee through it. So that's why they have them in cafes, but they just didn't have them for home.
Yeah.
So I made one for home. And then, so I bought lengths of PVC pipe. It's literally drain pipe with a bolt, a cap on the bottom, and a bit of garden hose. That's all it is.
MacGyver, though. I loved that show too, by the way. Watched it with my dad every week, not just because Richard Dean Anderson was smoking hot, but because they were problem solvers. It was awesome. It was like a puzzle every week.
Yeah, it was truly cool. Have you ever watched it since then? I've got it on DVD.
Kidding me? Still love that show. You're going to tell me you think it's lame? I'm going to challenge you on that, buddy, because I still love it.
Yeah, we just look back in things in life and they change. Funnily, like totally off topic, but I remember going to Disneyland as a kid and going in that small world, and there was like a drop that I swear was 10 feet.
I'm
You get back in
sorry.
there, and then
It's like,
bloop, bloop. Yeah. So that's how I feel like with MacGyver rewatching that. Sorry.
I still love it, all right? I still love it, right? You know what I love about it, though, is it's simple. And he uses himself and the resources he has around him to solve the problem. So the actual, while the, the graphics and the kind of, the clothes, you laugh at it now, the actual premise and message of the show still resonates with me. And I'm sure it does with you, obviously. You built a whole company around this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I bought the materials that I needed to make this first run and take them to the markets. And it literally is drain pipe, like 100 mil or 4-inch drain pipe, cut into sections and two cuts. One's got an angle, like a 45-degree angle, and they're the lengths. Anyway, so I'm cutting these down, and I did a diagonal cut with a drop saw, and a bit of pipe got sucked into the saw and nearly took my hand in with me. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm going to lose my hand. I haven't even got started this company. I haven't made a single sale, and I'm going to be one-arm Alex. This is how I do it. So I did the design. This is my mate Rod, his mum's Christine. He was working as a designer for roads, and so he had CAD, and he designed the first Grindstein
Yeah.
in roadmap CAD. And I got it tooled in Australia. I borrowed 10 grand from dad. How about this, right? So I remember doing the figures because I still had access to AC Nielsen marketing data being at university.
Yeah.
And I knew how many espresso machines, home espresso machines, were sold in Australia. And I knew that I said to dad, I remember saying, mate, if we can sell one espresso machine, sorry, one Grindenstein for like one in every 100. So 1 to 100, we'll be a millionaire. We'll be millionaires within a year. Of course, that didn't happen. It couldn't have been further from the truth. But yeah, so I borrowed 10 grand from dad, which I never paid him back. And I borrowed more from him. And yeah, look, I cannot tell you how tremendously, I wouldn't say blessed. I'm not really even remotely religious, but I have been helped a lot along the way. And not just by him, by a lot of different people. The list is long and long and long and long about the number of people who have gone out of their way. I think if you look, people who are listening and then wanting to get up and try something, I would definitely think that I have been shocked at how receptive people are to helping you if you ask. And
Yeah.
it always amazed me that if you ring someone and ask them their opinion, or if they have any advice for you, or what you would do with this or that, or whatever it might be, people are really willing to go out of their way and help you for no money. They know you have no money because you're asking them in the first. So yeah, it's
Want to feel useful, and they want to know that they matter, and they want to genuinely help you build your dreams.
100%.
I mean, I think when
Absolutely.
you surround yourself with beautiful people, they make your dreams their dreams, right? And they
Yeah.
want to help you and elevate you and celebrate you and make you the best version of yourself that you can be. And they show up, right? Like just showing up for yourself and showing up for others, it matters. And when we put good people and good ideas together with good intentions, magic happens. And that's exactly what you're doing at your company. So talk to me about how you went from this sheltered workshop in your house, putting this together with your friends and family, to all of a sudden within a year, this thing is being sold nationally, and internationally, and it's starting to gain momentum. How did that change things for you? The scalability of a company, there's small and there's big. You know what I mean? And there's just all of these, little bits along the way. How did that sort of change what motivated you?
Well, the interesting thing is when you're a big company and you've got distribution sorted out, and you've got accounting teams and department heads and meetings and all that crap figured out, the thing you don't have is ideas. And so what you have when you're small is plenty of ideas, but none of the other stuff. So you've really got to lean into what you've got.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was ideas. I always go with like this idea that there is, you know, one of the things about Dreamfarm, one of the quotes I love is impossible only means the solution is yet to be found.
Ooh,
And
love that.
it was funny when you were saying with your Nelson Mandela quote earlier. I'm like, I love a quote too. And
I love a quote.
Love a
Give me a quote. Give me a quote.
Yeah. Okay, here's one for you. Aerodynamically, the bumblebee should never have got off the ground, but he doesn't know that, so he continues to fly all the same. And I don't know who said that, but it's that naivety that you walk into with business. If you sit there and you think, oh, what about this, or that could go wrong, or that could go wrong, or I'm just going to roll with the punches. No matter what comes my way, I'm going to figure it out. Because guess what? 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people before you have figured it out. And there's another quote that I love by Steve Jobs that talks about that the world that you live in, everything you see around you was created by people that are no smarter than you are. And once you figure out you can add to this world and prod and poke, things will come out the other side. Your life changes. You realize you don't just live in a world of other people's making. You live in a world that you can make and add to and change, So it's about, you just got to figure out, I guess, some people are going to live a life where they get up, they go to work, they get their best paycheck, they go from A to B, and that's all it's going to be, and that's fine. But I think,
and exactly what some people need and want in order to be happy and fulfilled. That's not what was going to cut the mustard for you.
No,
right?
and not for a lot of people. But the thing is,
But me included. I've never had a real job in my life. I mean, seriously, my dad's still waiting for me to get a real job. My sister just got her first 9 to 5 job. It started yesterday, and he's literally like the cat that licked the canary. Let me tell you. It's like, even though he's so proud of us and he's laughing, but it's a joke, right? Because, okay, one daughter down, one to go. Like, it's hilarious. Anyway, yeah.
it's hilarious that you downplay your success that way as well, Tess. But anyway, the you've done lots, mate.
Oh, that's
The
very sweet. Thank you.
the the funny thing is the more you're exposed to in life, the more you want from life. So if you grow up in the middle of the outback nowhere and you've never traveled, the world as you know it is as big as one day maybe owning the news agency or the local cafe. And if you did that, you climbed to the height of your surroundings. Whereas, I mean, for some people and myself, I grew up overseas experiencing lots of different things and going lots of places. And my view on the world is, I wouldn't say huge, but just I know there's a lot out there that I want to do, and your days are numbered. I don't know, like maybe a lot of people feel like this. I have this morbid time clock in my head that just says, mate, your days are numbered. You better be doing the most with them you possibly can.
Yeah, you want to suck the marrow out of life. So do
Mm.
I. So do I. I want to ask you about this time overseas, because
Mhm.
you living in Japan, I want to ask you how that's informed your approach to design and innovation, because they are a culture
Mhm.
that, you know, they've got all these things that, in vending machines, and the culture is just, there's all these little gadgets for everything, right? And it's
Totally.
it's it's quite different than a lot of other countries, right? They've really got this culture of gadgets, you know what I mean? So, like,
Absolutely.
how did your time in Japan inform what you're doing now?
I remember one of the first weekends we were in Japan. There's an electronics district called Akihabara, and that's where you go to find gizmo gadgets and laptops and computers and all that sort of stuff. And back then, like as an electronics brand, Sony was the business. I remember buying a Discman. The batteries had run out in about 4 hours. It took four AA batteries, and they had the mini disc player. Like Sony as a brand, that was, you know, Sony like no other. Um, again, trying to be different and trying to create something unique. But, I mean, yeah, I think ex- seeing just the innovation there alone. I mean, as electronics, now it's an internet age, but back then it was definitely an electronics age in the 80s.
Yeah.
And what can you do with, you know, it was seeing all the different things and understanding what is possible. It definitely opens your horizons or broadens your horizons as to what you think is a win in life, and what you can do with yourself. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I want to ask about this being different, because I
Hmm.
know that one of your mantras is, just because you're different doesn't mean you're useful, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So I want to talk about some of your core values as a company,
Hmm.
and these values that really guide the way that you operate as a company, the beautiful company culture, but the excellence of the products that you put out there, and that they are always absolutely useful and value added. So, what is your yardstick? Like, what's the process you go through as a company when you've got all these ideas, you're
Hmm.
filtering these ideas, and then you figure out which ones are actually going to make it to the pointy end of the of the resource budget, so to speak.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, originally the idea was if you couldn't get a patent for it, it wasn't worth doing. Getting a patent was the litmus test as to whether or not the idea was unique enough to bother bringing out into the world. And I did that with Grindstein. I mean, it was a pretty weak patent, I've got to be honest. It's to do with noise cancellation and shock absorbing. And then with our pizza scissors, which was genuinely unique, and our smooth, which was awesome, potato masher. But
Best
now,
potato masher and best pizza cutter. For those of you that don't know what these pizza scissors, man, oh, like, you cut the pizza, it doesn't stick, the cheese doesn't stick. It's just the greatest. Anyway, continue. I'll be your PR.
can you? You're great.
No, Kate's pretty fabulous. There's some pretty fabulous people on your team. Your branding's tickety boo, mate.
Thank you. Sorry, I've lost train of thought here. What we were.
About your
The design.
the patents used to be the litmus test for whether something could be put out into the world.
You're right. Thank you.
I interrupted you. That was my fault.
No. It's fine. So now, look, it's taken time to figure out how you bottle up what we just had a gut feeling about what was useful and worth putting out into the world. So now we've been able to distill it down to 3 rules, and it's kind of a fourth. But the rules are: number 1 is it has to solve a problem. If the product doesn't solve a problem, it has no purpose. The problem it solves gives it utility, makes it useful. It's the reason why someone's going to reach for that in the drawer. What do I do? Number 2 is it has to be original, because if it does something that everybody else does, who cares? Like there's no point inventing something. We're not inventing something if someone's already done it. And who wants to make stuff that other people have already done? There's that middle child coming through, right? So then the third one is it has to work the best, because it can be different. Like the whole idea was, this is back to university and being in accounting. I was like, the thing with being different is that there are lots of aesthetically different products out there. That's what people know as design. But design is really more about the way that something works. That's what makes it the design. And so if it does something that's so, like the whole premise of Dreamfarm for me originally was, if I can make things that are so unique and so useful and so different, and we're the only ones that do that, well, then you have to buy our product. Right? It's not an objective, oh, that one looks nicer, or that one's a better shape. That's the only product that functions like that. So solve a problem, be unique, and be original, and then work the best. But the fourth thing that's really come into the mix, and the reason you mentioned before that we've won a lot of red dots, we have won 13 Red Dot Design Awards now, including Best of the Best. But the interesting part about that journey, it's been 21 years, is that we've won 7 years in a row now. So the last 7 years, we've won one every single year.
That's incredible.
It just means that as a company, we've now really honed in on what brings a unique product to market. And then so you go, so solve a problem, be original, and work the best. The fourth thing is that we really try to instill into our product design is a moment of magic where the product does something that you've never seen before. And there is an aha moment when you see our colander turn into a salad spinner, or you see
so good.
Thanks. It's or like there's a lot of products, or the Garject when it ejects the garlic.
Best garlic press on earth, everybody. Seriously. Like, I'm sorry, but like you have to clean it out with all the others, right? Like you press the garlic and it all comes up, but then what do you do with it? And the peel and just watch the videos, everyone. Dreamfarm.com. I do not have shares in the company. Wish I did, everybody. All right. But yeah, it's so incredible, Alex. I want to ask you about when I first met you at that first trade show and you had that tiny little booth, and it was like, all those people are going, they're just on their way, eating their sandwich and talking to someone while they're on their way to the huge account, like Oxo, Joseph and Joseph. Everyone had their day in the sun, right? This is Dreamfarm's time, and everybody wants to know you right now, right? So I want to ask you about the 2 things that I noticed, and tell me if this is right, which were really turning points in your company, really putting you on the map and going from someone that people knew about to someone everybody wanted to be friends with, right? When you put out that video about the mini spoon scraping every last bit out of that Nutella jar, that video went viral. So I talked about this in my introduction, everybody. This little mini spoon is this little spatula, the greatest spatula on earth, everybody, let me tell you. It scrapes every last bit out of every blender container. I own almost every blender in the world. I've tested it. And every last bit out of any nut butter jar. So peanut butter lovers, Nutella lovers, I'm telling you, it was so brilliant. Whoever thought of that, doing that video, Alex, but you couldn't get that thing for ages. Everybody wanted it, right? Was that one of the major turning points for you?
Absolutely.
Or am I just looking at that from an outsider's perspective?
Well, it's funny. You only see it in hindsight, right? You never, when it's happening, it's really hard to figure out, oh my God, that's when it changed for us. But that definitely changed things for us. Well, there's been, look, if I look back now, well, there's been lots of little milestones, but in terms of exposure and
Mm.
becoming a household name, that
Yeah.
mini spoon video had over 100 million views on Facebook.
Yeah.
And that was still when you had virility on Facebook. It wasn't just
Yeah.
pay to play. And
Yeah.
it was so simple. It was a Nutella jar that had bits of Nutella all around the outside of the glass. And we just put a spoon in, like a spoon, mini spoon in from the top, and it just worked its way down the top of the jar, turned the jar in, like completely transparent again,
It was so
and
good.
then sat down and sat up. So it was put down and sat up. And that's Sister Kate's hand in that video.
It was so brilliant. I know Kate and I talked about it. It was so great because I'm sorry, I've thought about sticking my tongue in that Nutella jar. If you didn't
Everyone.
that or that peanut butter jar or that almond butter jar. I mean, we all have, right? I mean, there was a visceral reaction to that. It was so clever. So was the getting on Time magazine's, 100 best inventions, the list of the 200 best inventions, isn't it, for 2023 and Oprah's favorite things with that Flusa, the greatest citrus press on earth. Was that the next kind of thing? Or you said there was a few. Was there something in between that like really sent you into the stratosphere?
No, I'd say the Flusa, look, it was, so we'd won a bunch of red dots. And this is the little spiel, the little story I'd tell you about that. And we'd won a lot of red dots. You'd tell your friends about it, and they're like, yeah, cool, who cares? No one knows what that is. It's a very much
What's a red dot? Yeah, totally.
but in design, it's a big deal. But
It's
outside
a
of that,
big deal. Yeah.
no one really cares. And so we won another one, or like I think last year we won 3 of them, and everyone's like, "Oh, cool guy." Um, but then Flusa, this lemon juicer, this one won a red dot. It won a good design. It won a G award. Like it cleaned up everything on the award circuit for design, but still, no one really cared. And then when Oprah was it was chosen as Oprah's favorite things for the summer list. That's when I'd go to barbecues and suddenly the wives started saying, "Hey, so you're on Oprah," and now they were starting to pay attention. But then the first time that I've actually I turned up to my kids' rugby training, and the other day it's all like, "Hey, so you're on Time Magazine. That's amazing," because getting chosen for Time Magazine's best inventions list,
It's
I
huge.
mean, it's huge because it's like Apple and Tesla and
You've kissed the ring.
And
You've kissed the ring at this point. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did that, I mean, it's just been thrilling, as I say, to watch. Thrilling and could not happen to nicer, more clever, incredible people. Your stuff is so incredible. How
Thanks,
has
Steph.
that changed things for you as a company? Like just, now everybody wants to invite you to the party. You talked about in the beginning as a 22-year-old wanting to be the Jones account. I mean, you are the Jones account now, right? You're the dream. You're not just the Jones account. You're not the dream and the potential or the possibility of an account. You are the Dreamfarm account, a household name now. What motivates you now as Alex, as the man, now that you've got a lot of money, the company is successful, people know who you are, they care who you are, you matter, middle child, you matter. What motivates you now?
Oh, lots of things. To be honest, we recognise this is our time in the sun, but during COVID, we were really lucky that we doubled down and we tripled our design team. So really clever people were looking for work. Our design team,
Was it luck though? It was a conscious choice, right? It was a strategic conscious choice that you made not to retreat during the pandemic. You leaned in and you
Yep.
went, we got our ideas. Going back to what you said, right? We've got our ideas, and ideas can be out in the world or during a pandemic in lockdown in your home. You've still got your ideas, right?
To be honest, during COVID, the only thing I wanted to do as a boss was not let people down. I really felt this tremendous sense of responsibility to make sure that everyone could still pay their bills and have jobs and everything else. And that's all we've got. We've got our products. But
Yeah.
we don't wash cars. We have kitchen gadgets. And so, look, COVID, don't get me wrong, was horrific in so many ways for so many people. But looking back, as a kitchen brand company, it was kind of awesome.
Everyone was at home cooking.
No
They
one
had
could-
to.
No, no one could spend money on holidays. No one could leave their house. They were stuck in their houses with the world around them. Everyone was making sourdough and learning about cooking again and ordering everything online. It was I'm not saying I'm hoping for another dash of COVID, but it definitely wasn't awful as a kitchenware business to be
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
time. It just was a tremendous boost to us. Like, really sorry for all the people that didn't happen
Oh,
for.
it was awful for so many people. But
Yeah.
as a company, you have to anticipate and be ready for and adapt and use what you have to survive, which is what you did, right? And really lean into the fact that just like food bloggers and people that had food websites and sourdough starters, I mean,
Mhm.
please, if you had a sourdough starter, it was like, it had the Midas touch, right? Everyone was feeding their sourdough starter at home. So you leaned into this, you really kept innovating and kept creating. Does that sense of not wanting to let people down, your group, your team of these incredible people that you've now assembled in this company, does that still motivate? You said
Oh,
lots of things motivate you. Did that still
absolutely.
motivate you? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there are so many people that have invested so much into Dream Farm, whether it be their life's work. I mean, I've got Phil, right? So Phil's our head of design. I found him straight out of university. So we just finished up our fourth product and we were working on five, six, seven, and eight. And I needed a full time designer. And so I went to the university, Don Carson. It's amazing how you remember these names, right? He was the head of the design faculty there. And I said, "Who's your best student? What have you got?" And he gave me a bunch of people, and Phil stood out by far. Phil joined Dream Farm straight out of university, and he's brilliant, like really, really, really clever. And so, people give me a lot of credit for Dreamfarm. It really is a team effort. I always try and remind people of that. But there are so many people that rely on this for X, Y, and Z reason. I just don't want to let people down. And once you've got to that level, I mean, I'm sure. Look, I'm sure anyone creative, you put out a great album as a songwriter, or you make a great movie, or whatever it is, you don't want to fall. It's not going to last forever. You're only as good as your last game. And so, don't get me wrong. This time in the sun that I know the products we're going to launch for the next 2.5 years, and they are killer. Like,
Oh, I can't wait. I
there's,
can't wait.
there's no chance slowing down anytime soon. But
Oh, just enjoy it. Oh,
yeah,
just enjoy it.
from day one, people have been into me saying, "Oh, everything the world needs has already been invented. What are you going to possibly come up with?" And I'm just watch me, mother f. Like
Yeah, right.
I'm definitely that spiteful little kid that said, "You
You like the don't tell me I can't because I'm going to do it even more. Yeah.
just
Yeah. That
effing,
motivates me too.
just
Yeah.
effing watch me." Like
Oh, I'm there with you. Oh.
so, so easily manipulated. If you tell me I can't do something and I want to do that, or I think I can, watch out. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it right now. So, yeah, I want to make sure that we've got tons of retailers as well that little retail mum and dad retail store that has made a big deal about Dream Farm to their customers, and so they've invested in us as well, and it's just become this big machine now that I want to make sure that the next thing we come out with, like I've seen brands that have gone before us, like you were saying, a couple of brands earlier that have had their time in the sun, and then you get this. There's a line in the movie Zoolander. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah.
Right. So Mugatu, right, and they're like, "Oh, Mugatu's so hot right now. He could take a shit in a piece of tinfoil and sell it to Queen Elizabeth as earrings, right?" And I always like that is the idea of like, okay, my brand's really great, but if I just stick it everywhere, you could sell something. Like we could walk into a factory in China, do no design works whatsoever, stick Dream Farm on it, and we would sell a ton of them. But
Totally.
the thing you have to remember as a brand is that your brand is the average coolness of all of your products. So if you start pumping out crap and junk that nobody uses, people aren't stupid. People are really, really smart at figuring out what is useful and what is not. And they're very vocal now. The internet's given them all a microphone. They're like, "No, 1 star, 2 stars," and you live and die by people's recommendations now. So it has to solve a problem. Like do all the things that we set out to do, but
Yeah.
you just can't get lazy. The moment you get lazy, you will be forgotten. And I just don't want to, at some stage, this will end for us. I'm not naive enough to think that this will last forever, but we are going to give it the best we possibly. Look, this is the other funny thing, Tess, is that we're not doing anything different now than we've done for the last 20 years. We're just not.
Yeah.
We have done at that same level. We've just hit that critical mass and had enough exposure. It's not like people are getting to our website and going, oh, where's the floozer? Where's the mini spoon? Okay, they're the only two things I want. There are tons of things that we've been doing.
There's
Go,
so
"What
many
about?"
great things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just
Look.
that's what I come back to when I say there's been a lot of luck. A lot of things have really gone our way. You know, you work hard. Don't get me wrong. We definitely worked our asses off for a long, long, long time, and we still do every day now. But we've had a lot of things go our way, and I think only once they say the more you train, or the more you practice, the luckier you get. The harder you work, the luckier you get. You've got to make those opportunities.
Champions make their own luck.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yes, opportunity, that whole sports analogy for sure. But it is just hard work. I just think just the synergy of, the Grindenstein being your first product. It has been a grind for 20 years. Lots of joy, lots of innovation, lots of beautiful people, lots of help, lots of love along the way. But this isn't an overnight success.
Oh, definitely not. You know what?
Yeah.
I remember running, our first Canadian distributor, Brown & Co. And the bloke he ran that was Peter Brown. And Peter Brown said to me one day, he goes, don't ever forget, mate, that if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. It's supposed to be hard, right? And it always stuck with me. And this is like 15 years ago. And I remind our design team that all the time. Like, they're like, well, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm like, I know. That's the exciting part, that nobody knows how we're going to solve this problem. Because if it was easy, it would have been solved before, and we wouldn't have a job doing what we do. So
does that get you fired up to get out of bed in the morning, like to go to work specifically? Like it's like a puzzle for you. Like, I'm going to figure this out like no one has before. Like, does that motivate you?
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of pressure the higher you go up the food chain in our design team, because we have brilliant designers that are independently coming up with ideas that I absolutely wish I'd come up with myself. But if we can't solve the problem, and it gets through to Phil, and Phil and I sit there going, oh, we need to figure this out. I mean, eventually, you know what? Once you've figured out what the problem is, once you've identified the problem you're trying to solve, if you give it enough time and oxygen and effort, you will solve the problem. And there's nothing that's impossible out there. There really is. Everything is solvable if you put your mind to it and commit enough time and energy to it. It is. But yeah, it's kind of on us up top of the end of the food chain.
Oh, no, I love it. I'm eating this up with a big mini spoon, let me tell you. I want to go back to your dad for a second.
Sure.
I talked about this in the intro, how my dad got cancer and your dad got cancer at the same time. And you guys were so beautiful and supportive to me. And I so appreciated it when you were going through this time with Dad. Gosh, what does that make you feel like now with your dad? Like, him helping you with this company and giving you the money and never asking for it back, and your mum and dad helping you, and, and being a dad now to these young children, that those bookends of those generations, like, what would you say to your dad when, these design awards and the Flusser and Time magazine? And I just want to cry thinking about it.
Same. I want to cry. You brought it up. I don't know. Look, I'm really, really lucky. I've had two of the most supportive parents you could possibly imagine, and Mum is still helping us, and she's just amazing. But for Dad as well, like, he would finish work every day. Dad used to go past the photocopier every day on his way out the door and pinch a centimetre of paper and bring it into work, so we never had to pay for paper. Little things like that. It just, everything he did for us. And look, I'm not going to, growing up, I knew I was the good son. It was pretty obvious. Sorry, Brother John. It was just how it happened, mate. But look, the saddest thing about when my dad passed away was I lost my biggest and best supporter. I've just never felt that amount of just genuine he was just in my corner, and it wouldn't matter what I needed to do or figure out or whatever. He's like, mate, you can do this. You've got this. I believe in you. He was my biggest fan. And, it's I feel guilty sometimes that like I don't think about him on a day-to-day basis. It's only when things are going really, really well for us. Like, I remember when we got the call up that we'd won that Time Magazine thing, and I just wish he was here for it. I really do. And it gives you pause to make sure that for your own kids that you're giving them that unconditional support in whatever they want to do, And not everyone has felt that in life. I know that now, but I definitely have. And it was almost like this cloak of indestructible, or like I was just invincible because I had people behind me that supported me and believed in me and knew that, we'd figure it out together, and I've always felt so tremendously supported. And yeah, dad was that guy, and mum is too. Mum absolutely is that thing. Like, I can't tell you how many hundreds of hours, I mean, my mum has put grindstones together with me, and then my dad would come at the end of every day and he would do the accounting for it. Yeah, I've just been so bloody lucky. I really can't say the other way.
Uh, well, I mean, yeah, I had really great parents too. So I think that's why it makes me really emotional. Just, knowing you all of these years, and I just feel so invested. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful family success story.
Thanks.
Oh gosh, I just want you to soar to even bigger heights in this world, and if nothing else, to have these incredible things in my own. Everyone in the 60-day reset and my 14-day cleanse are just absolutely obsessed with your products. Some people have even put it in their video testimonials. I sent it to you. It was so hilarious. She brings up her mini spoon because I'm obsessed with it and put it in all the recipe videos. And just you can just see it in the company culture and just the hilarious good humor videos and branding. I mean, I actually laugh at the videos. They're so fun. There's so much fun. It's just this, we want life to be fun, So you said so many things, in our conversation today that, I could pull out of in answer to this question, but I always close, every interview with a question. But before I ask you that question, I do just want to ask you, because you're so motivated to make the impossible possible, that if you spend enough time on it, it can be done, and you've got all these people in your corner. I do want to know what you're afraid of. Like, what scares you the most? And how do you get past it?
What am I afraid of? Oh, geez, good question. I think if I, oh, geez, Jesus, Des. I'm afraid of lying on my deathbed and wondering that I didn't give it more, or that I didn't give it everything that I had. I'm afraid of dying wondering if I tried that little bit harder, or if I did that little bit more, or if I launched that product, or I put that out into the world, whatever it is. I don't want to die with an idea in my head that I didn't get out into the world. I don't want to. I don't want to live with regret for having not tried. And so, look, we've got a lot of great products. There's some duds, some absolute stinkers, some absolute rubbish that thankfully the world has told us this sucks and gotten rid of. But I just don't want to. I just want to do as much as I possibly can with the limited time that we're here. And I'm afraid of not doing it, like making the most of this life that we live. And, I think there's a lot of, you get so caught up in the humdrum of everyday life. I've got to drop the kids off. I've got to go to that meeting. I've got to go and do the shopping, or this, that, and the other. And sometimes I don't think people stop and realize just how lucky we are to even be here in the first place. And that this whole thing that we've created, this 9 to 5 and Monday to Friday and all of this, I know why it exists, but that's not what life is, right? It's about, because this is the other thing that I try to remember all the time, and this is very morbid, but this is just unfortunately how my brain works, is that everything that you do, every photo you've ever taken, everything you've ever created, all your stuff, everything that you create right now that proves that Tess Masters is on this earth, in 3 generations' time, it will all be underground, and for the most part, we will have been forgotten, right? So in many senses, your life is for you. It's not about other people. It's not about what you think you should be doing, because none of it's going to be around in 100 years' time. None of it will. So the only thing that you have between when you started and when you finish, you don't know how long that's going to be. It's your life. So go out and do everything you possibly can to get every experience, try everything. But you just don't want to end up on that. Like you've seen, I mean, what am I, 42 now, nearly 43. And already in this age group, people my age have out of nowhere dropped off the planet. And I've got a close family friend this Sunday for a celebration of his life. He, same age, died out of nowhere. And you just never know when your time's up. So if you're up and you're standing today, make the most of it. I just think there's I don't want to, what am I afraid of? Dying with regret that I didn't try. And I think a lot of people are like that. So, yeah.
So you kind of answered my last question for today, and our conversation will continue. Lucky me. But yeah, I always
I think we were going to be crying. Jesus, Jess.
I know, me too. It's just so, oh gosh, yeah, it's so beautiful. I always close every episode with if someone has a dream in their heart and they don't think that they have what it takes to make it happen, which is so many people, what would you say to them? I mean, I guess it's, in closing, what would you say?
Go for it. Get every reason. I cannot tell you along this journey how many times I've been staring at the ceiling in the middle of the night trying to figure out how on earth I'm going to pay wages on Monday. How on earth am I going to do this? But I tell you what, I've always figured it out. You will always figure it out. And guess what? The worst that can happen, once you accept the worst that could possibly happen and realize, who cares? That's not the end of the world. The sun will get up the next day. There is nothing in your way except yourself. So give it a go. That's what I would say. Give it a go. You never know your luck. And if you put enough into it and don't give up and keep trying every day, you'll get there. You absolutely will. Everybody does that tries hard enough and long enough. You can go for it.
Well, I'm just going to walk off with just a warm, gooey feeling inside of me from this conversation. Thank you for how you show up in the world. Thank you for the wonderful products you're putting out into the world. And, thank you for the way that you've shown up for me, and your family's shown up for me. And I'm just really excited to be championing you and celebrating what's coming next for you.
Thanks, Tess. I love having you in my life, and I've loved being on your show. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you.
Take care.
I don't know about you, but I feel fired up after that conversation to go after every single thing I want in my life. That's the key takeaway for me, is you've got one life to live. Make it count. Don't live with the regret of the coulda, woulda, shoulda. I wish I had done that. Lean into your ideas and put them out there. Share them with the world. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to figure out what you're made of, and you're going to learn. The other key takeaway for me is nothing's impossible. There is a solution to everything as long as you put enough time, energy, and resources into it, and you ask for help. What a beautiful way to move through the world. What do you think?
I want to hear about your It Has To Be Me story. So head on over to ithastobeme.com/stories to share it in our free community. You can also join the conversations we're having about this episode and others. I'm Tess Masters. Join me next week and we'll dive inside another great story to help us go from dreaming to doing.